All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Question came in that we'll see how far this goes. Question, which is a common question for a JIT, a Jew in training, and that is about learning Hebrew. And the question is, they can read Hebrew slowly, right? The most important thing for conversion is being able to read from a prayer book, being able to follow a service. Those are the most important things, not speaking modern Hebrew. No rabbinical court's going to care if you speak modern Hebrew or not. It's nothing to do with conversion. So therefore, a person can read the prayers, can know how to say grace after meals, different prayers. That's what the rabbinical court's looking for. So the question is, they read slowly, don't yet understand most of what they're reading. Now, reading the prayers in Hebrew is much more powerful. Very true. Right? Definitely very true. Even if you don't understand, it's still very powerful. Right? But when you read it in Hebrew, you don't feel anything. Right? Now, does anyone know why? Well, I think that's pretty obvious. We'll get to that in a second. Is it because you don't fully understand the Hebrew, even though you know the prayers in English? Right? Hebrew, saying the prayers in Hebrew, very powerful, no question. But what's the question over here? If a person doesn't understand Hebrew, or even if you do understand Hebrew, right? I don't take it the other way. Even if you do understand Hebrew, let's say going through it, how much do we really understand? How much depth do we really understand? Right? That's the question. So most religious people, I'm going to put everyone under the bus pretty much. I would say most religious people say the words, even if they understand to a certain extent, what they mean. Deeper explanation, most people don't have. Going to be shocking. I'm going to say most people are not in tune with prayer. Now, I'm not saying it's right, but most Jews, Orthodox Jews, are not in tune. So therefore, this question would be, for most Jews, they have to pray, talking about most yeshivas, Lithuanian Jews. It's very dry. Okay, they say the prayers, they don't sing as much, whatever. Hasidim probably sing a lot more. Maybe they have more, intention, but the focus is different. By, us Lithuanian Jews, the focus, prayer is something we do. Something we're obligated to do. But I would say it's not a priority. Meaning, people get whatever they get out of prayer. They don't work on it. A lot of people. They say it, they do it, get more into it, less into it. Right? So reading in Hebrew has power. Now, what if you don't understand Hebrew? Does it still have power? Yeah. And even a person understands what they're saying because of translation. Does that have power? Has power. Right? Understanding what you're saying. Right? Now, the question is, right? Person's been told reading the prayers have power. True. But when you read it, you don't feel anywhere not as much. Prayer, remember, prayer is one of the three things the Gemara says needs strengthening. Always needs strengthening. Right? Sometimes, let's say you go to synagogue, on Shabbos, where, maybe some places sing more, etc. You get more of a fuzzy feeling, even without understanding the word. Right? But I'll say like this. If you're just starting out, you're just learning Hebrew, and you're understanding a little bit, let's just say a tiny bit, how can it be a person starting out, they're going to feel anything? Even if you know what the words mean in English or any other language. So you're going to say, but isn't it more powerful? If I say in Hebrew, it is. And even if you don't understand what you're saying, you still get credit. 100% you still get credit. But I would venture to say most people who pray on a regular basis, I don't think you get much out of prayer. Kind of heretical thing to say, but I think it's true because people don't work on prayer. People don't think about what they say. People's mind wanders, right? Their mind wanders. It's normal. I'm not saying it's good. Definitely not saying it's good, but being part of that community, the Lithuanian community for the past 30 years is very dry. That's why, potential converts or converts end up being more Hasidic or Breslov or, Karlibach or whatever, because they like to sing. They like the tunes, right? It gives them a feeling. Now, even if you don't understand the words, even if you know what the translation is, you don't understand deeper meaning. Most people don't understand deeper meaning. Now, someone would say, isn't that sad? You pray, a guy prays 3 times a day, right? Isn't that something that should be worked on? 100%. Is it something people work on? No. I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't. I'm not going to say everybody. Okay, they pray, they understand what they're saying, more or less. Sometimes they have more intention, less intention. But, you got to cut yourself a little bit of slack, because why do you think all of a sudden the light bulb is going to go off when you barely know how to read Hebrew? And you're saying the same prayers over. Let me say stronger, because this question comes up a lot. If somebody prays, we all do, right? We pray the same thing day in and day out. In the morning, afternoon, at night, right? Shabbos a little bit different, festivals a little bit different, but essentially the same prayers. Essentially the same prayers. So people say, it's monotonous. I say the same thing over and over again. Sometimes my attention's greater because I'm more in dire straits. Sometimes my attention is less because, I'm tired or whatever. Isn't it something that needs strengthening? It's hard. I would say in certain way it's easier. If, we're being tossed around like rag dolls. You have no one to turn to except Avinu Shebashamayim. Right? So even if you understand a little bit, I think a person can have a lot more fervor because they're having difficulty. Right? But see, this is the problem. And I mentioned this once, I mentioned it twice, I'll mention it 100 times. We live in an instantaneous generation, which is not good. A fast food generation, a fast everything generation. So people are going to say, and again, I'm not picking on the person who asked the question, right? But I want people to understand spiritual things do not come overnight. Let me repeat that. Spiritual things do not come overnight. Let me say it the third time. Spiritual things do not come overnight. And don't expect it's going to come overnight. You don't understand the language, you don't understand the lingo, you have no idea what's going on, even if you understand the translation. Okay? At a basic level. You understand what the words mean. Right? Give or take the bigger picture. Okay. Now you're expecting somebody like this who's got barely an education in Torah at all, and now you're going to stand in front of God and expect you're going to feel light bulbs going off without knowing the language? How is that possible? So you want to ask, does anyone understand why? Yeah, I do. Because if you're not holding anywhere in the world, you don't know the language. And if you do know the language, most people aren't, when it comes to prayer, they're not holding anywhere, unfortunately. They come, they pray, they leave. Some people more intention, less intention. Most people don't have a clue. Orthodox Jews going out on a limb here, going to pick on them, throw them under the bus. Most Orthodox Jews don't have any clue what goes on in prayer. They know how to pray, right? But just because someone has a prayer book in front of them going back and forth like this does not mean they're praying. They're saying the words. It doesn't mean it's going in. So even if you say the words, even if you understand basically what the words mean and what's going on, you want to tell me your soul should feel it? Don't think like we're living in this instantaneous stinking generation. Yeah, people think I'm going to get my answer now. Who says? Comes to prayer, the highest level to serve God, and you don't understand the language, you don't understand how things are put together. Forget about Kabbalah. And now, again, I'm not picking on the person asking the question. I just want to make the point, right? And that is, now you expect I'm going to understand everything? Why don't I feel it? What do you mean? Why should you feel it? Because you got to say, I'm saying the words. I'm reading it in Hebrew, even slowly. Come on. Do you have any idea? I'll give an example. The Vilna Gaon says, and again, this is according to Kabbalah, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. The Vilna Gaon, Rav Elijah Vilna, more than 150 years ago, 250 years ago, right? Rav Elijah Vilna, that's the whole thing. If a person gets to synagogue late in the morning, you get to synagogue late in the morning. Now, you have to say things in order. And if you don't say things in order, let's say you don't have as much time, you got to catch up to certain points, right? Certain points you got to catch up, so you got to skip things. So there's certain things you can skip. It depends how much you need to skip, whatever. But the Vilna Gaon, now just put this in perspective. The Vilna Gaon says you've messed up many things in the spiritual world because you skip saying different psalms. There's an obligation for at least every guy, right, in the morning to say, in the Psukei de Zimra, the verses of song. There's an obligation to say Psalms 145 to 150, right? Starting with Ashrei. Now, that being the case, if you get there late, and now they're already, close to the Shema, okay, you say Ashrei, you catch up. Or you say maybe one of the Psalms and you catch up. But the Vilna Gaon says you messed up the spiritual world by doing that. Now, explain that to someone who comes to synagogue late. Your average outer Orthodox Jew. Do they have any clue? No, I have to skip. I got behind, whatever, right? I got to say the Shema with everybody. I got to say Shemona Esrei with everybody. Ask the majority of people sitting and learning day in and day out. What did they mess up? You think they say anything they messed up the spiritual world because you're supposed to say it in order? I don't think so. I'm going to go on a limb here. I know so. No one's thinking that. Okay, they got late. They got there late. So what's the halacha? What's my obligation? What am I allowed to skip? What do I have to do? So there are basic laws that everyone has to know. God forbid you show up late, right? You overslept. You got up, whatever it was, right? You got there late. So when you skip around, I'm not saying you can't. You have an obligation because you have to catch up. Right? You can't just say what you want and slowly. There's certain things you got to answer with everybody else. So according to Vilna Gaon, according to Kabbalah, you just messed up spiritual worlds because you got to say in order. So I'm going to go on a limb again. Good thing we're recording this. I'm going to go on a limb. How many outer Orthodox Jews out there even think about that? 0. I'm going to tell you it's 0. So now someone's going to ask the question, gee, I'm trying to read Hebrew. I'm trying to work hard over here. I don't feel anything. Are you kidding? I mean, it's a joke. It's a total joke over here. Why do you think your soul should feel it? You learning Kabbalah? Let me ask another question. Shemona Esrei. Silent meditation. Silent meditation, the Mishnah Berurah says the Chofetz Chaim, what's your intention? What should your be intention when you say these 19 blessings? What's your intention? The Mishnah Berurah says understanding the words. Understanding basically what the words mean. Okay? So I asked my Rebbe this question years ago. I asked him this question. He said, the Mishnah Berurah says, you got to try and understand the words. Okay. So I said, and he goes, for you, that's enough. Said that to me. Been praying for years. He says, for you, that's enough. For most people, that's enough. You got to say you don't feel it. You got to work at it. Not something comes overnight. Not something, it's going to happen by osmosis. If it's something you don't understand, prayer is very deep. Right? I'll give people homework. If you want, look up if you have an Art Scroll prayer book, look up the verses that it quotes. And then, right, their commentaries speak about it. There are a lot of things going on, what we're saying and why. It's complex. Most people do not delve into it. I'm not saying it's right. Most people do not delve into it, but you stand in front of the King of Kings. That's their obligation 3 times a day for a guy, at least twice for a woman, according to most rabbinic authorities. Right? So if that's the case, don't you think we should know a little bit more in depth what we're doing? Some people say, come on, I learn all day. Yeah, I come to pray, I leave. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? There are people in this world, they can learn all day, be big rabbinic scholars, have no connection to God at all. No connection to God. You're going to say, uh-oh, Kaufman's a heretic. He's saying Jews don't have a connection to God. So what do I mean? What do I mean they don't have a connection? They blessings all the time. God, the source of all blessing, fruit of the vine, right? Fruit of the tree, fruit of the ground, bringing bread from the ground. But you mention God's name. I'll take it one step further. The halacha is, you mention God's name, you have to know what the blessing is. In other words, you have to know where that blessing's going. If you didn't, you weren't sure, but you said the right blessing, you get credit. Is that the right way to do it? Hell no. You have to know what you're doing before you make the blessing. Where's it going? Now, how many people think when they mention God's name, they're thinking about this? Probably not too many. I'm not going to say it's 0. Won't go that far. Probably not too many. Why not? Because they're hungry. They're thirsty. Whatever it is. They're going to make the blessing. They're going to say God's name. But are they really thinking God, the one in charge of the world? Simple intention. So thank God mitzvahs don't need intention. We hold in the end mitzvahs don't need intention. Certain things need more intention. But even if we hold mitzvahs don't need intention, don't you think it's something we should work on? Sure. Go explain that to the masses. Go explain that to most ultra-Orthodox Jews. Watch how they pray. Do homework and see. You think they're holding where they need to be holding? So you're going to say nobody is. Okay. But I said, this is something the Gemara says needs to be worked on. Needs to be strengthened. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen with an English translation. It's something you got to work on. You got to know. You got to understand. What do the prayers mean? What do they represent? What am I doing? Forget Kabbalah. I can speak about Kabbalah, turn everyone into a pretzel right now. Right? Or the silly putty. Very easily. Right? I mentioned one thing by the Vilna Gaon, I guarantee no one's holding there. Probably nobody, unless they're praying according to Kabbalah. The person's not praying according to Kabbalah, which is most people, then guess what? At the end of the day, you get credit for prayer. You're not going to get high-level credit. You get credit, which is probably why a person's going to say, I pray a lot, I ask for a similar thing. God's not answering me. Well, why do you think he's not answering you? So Rabbi says, you got to be like an Eved, like a slave, before your master. You got to spill it all out. Give everything you got. Doesn't happen overnight. What, do you think all of a sudden, bam, that's it? I read the prayer, God's going to answer it, and everything's good because I understood what I said. The Gemara says, what's one of the worst things a person can say? I understood the words, I prayed well, God should answer me. Oh, bad news. Comes on Mr. S, the Satan, the evil inclination. And what's the evil inclination going to say? Oh, Kaufman said he prayed so well. And he had good intention. And God should answer his prayers. Who's he? Let's open up his file. Let's see. Let's see where his thoughts really were. Who's going to pass that test? At 100%, you said the prayers. Who's going to pass that test? Very few people. Very few people. Right? So this is because you don't fully understand the Hebrew. It's not just not understanding Hebrew. Even if you have an English translation, you understand what it says. Right? Do you understand the context? Maybe not. Do you understand deeper meaning? Probably not. Right? But you get something out of it. You understand more or less, give or take. So then the question is that going to change when you fully understand the Hebrew words? So I'm going to be the burden of bad news. And the answer is probably no. Why is the answer no? The answer is no, because you got to sit there and concentrate and understand what you're doing. But you have to keep pace. You also have to keep pace. So if a person wants to spend some time every day, right? There's Rabbi Schwab on prayer. Right? Shimon Schwab has a whole book in English, about prayer. There are a number of good books on prayer and what the prayers mean. So learn it, buy the book, go through it. Go through this every day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. What Psukei de Zimmer means, the verses of song, right? What the Psalms mean, what you're doing. You do that every day. You think about it every day a little bit deeper. Okay. That's a different thing. But there are plenty of people who know Hebrew. They're not into it. I can tell you, they're not into it. But it's something that in this generation, it's been worked on. It's been worked on because people find it very dry. They don't connect. You got a golden opportunity for guys 3 times a day, women twice to connect. God gives you an opportunity to connect to him. What do? We sit there and mumble words. We're thinking, when's it going to be over? When is it? We're on a very low level. Doesn't mean we don't have to work. Doesn't mean we don't have to strive, but we do this 3 times a day. So how come for so long it's been given lip service? Because it has been. What's more important? Learning, knowing how to learn, halacha, gemara, prayer. Okay, you have to know how to pray. It's a great book. It's called Praying with Fire. Right? Knowing the nuances of prayer and what you're doing. And inspiration. We've got to be inspired. Or am I Hasidic side here coming out? But just because if someone knows the translation and can read Hebrew, why doesn't it happen? What do you mean, why doesn't it happen? Prayer is something that needs to be strengthened. Doesn't come automatic, right? Start learning Gemara after conversion. Person got to see, I understood the English. Okay. But then, then we're going to start asking questions. Well, what about this? And what about that? Is that really what he meant? So learning, one of my rabbis once told me, there were these priests. They want to talk to them and learning. They were learning a certain tractate. So, a certain tractate of Talmud. But so my rabbi said, or one of my rabbis told me like this, he said they could repeat it verbatim. They could repeat the words verbatim. He said they didn't understand anything. Not in English and not in Aramaic. They didn't understand anything. Because once you start digging deeper, you start asking questions. Isn't it very easy to go over the same text over and over and over and memorize it? Sure. I mean, it's kind of tedious. People don't like to do it. But if someone's got a good memory, could they memorize a lot of things? 100%. Would they understand anything? Probably not. Why not? Because they're only repeating what they heard, right? Or they're only repeating what they read. Repeating what you read, right? Repeating what you read doesn't mean you understand what it says. I was learning something this morning, right? It's morning my time, afternoon, morning for most people, right? So I was learning something. I read this whole paragraph. Guess what? I read the words, didn't register. My mind was elsewhere. Went back again. I had to look at it again, because just because you're reading the words, and and your mind's elsewhere, you're not learning, right? You're not learning over here. So, in a class on prayers, I once said, I say it, when I go through this, and that is the person could have the prayer book in front of them, doing all the motions, and they're not even praying. Why are they not considered praying? They're saying the words. You're right. It's not registering. It's not going anywhere. They're going through the motions. Going through the motions, not prayer. You don't get credit for prayer in such a thing. You got to say the words. You got to think a little bit what they mean, etc. What you want, what your petitions are, different things. But do not expect nobody. I don't care if a Jew is religious from birth or became about tshuva, right? A Jew, non-Jew, is a JIT, doesn't matter. This is gonna take time. It's gonna take time. And if you don't work at it, you don't read about it, you don't learn about it, guess what? You're not gonna get anything out of it. Even if you understand the English, you get minimal out of it. You get credit. You get credit 100%. You'll get credit. You might get a C-, but you'll get credit. Isn't that a waste? Here you get a golden opportunity. Golden opportunity. Twice a day or 3 times a day. Not only that, when it comes to prayer, you got to prepare a little bit ahead of time. You can't just run into prayer and start praying. You got to change your mindset. You got to keep your mind open. You don't just rush into things. So if it's not worked on, which again, I'm going to say most people probably don't work on it. I don't think it's far-fetched to say, right? They probably don't work on it, but they have to do it. They have an obligation, God forbid, they may find out forever. So they have to pray. What does prayer speak to them? Does it really speak to them? So there's a movement going on for the last 15, 20 years to improve our quality of prayer and working hard at it. But it doesn't mean that, even if I understand, even if I'm at that level, I'm really into things. Does that mean every prayer service I'm going to be where I need to be? No. Why not? Because we get distracted, other things going on. We get there late. Some things happen. Right? It's hard. Prayer is one of the hardest things. So I want to point, I'm not, picking on anybody in particular. My point is it's something that always needs to be worked on. If it's something that needs to be worked on, and it's very difficult, do not expect overnight just because you don't understand Hebrew. And once you start understanding Hebrew, it's going to change. That's the first thing. Now, a person can get, I think, a lot more. Let's say a person comes to the synagogue on Shabbos, there are places that sing more, places that sing a lot. Why? Get you in the mood. Regardless how well you know the prayers or not, get you in the mood, so to speak. Try and do that on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, or, get yourself in the mood. Not going to sing during the week, most cases, right? Most places a person's going to pray, you don't sing. It's really up for Shabbos, for festivals. So how do you get yourself in the mood when you don't really want to pray, when you're down? That's a good question. That wasn't the question that was asked. Question that was asked, I don't feel anywhere near, what I should. So you're expecting something that's unrealistic. 100% totally unrealistic. How do I know? Because most people don't feel it. Many, maybe they feel it sometimes in their lifetime. When does a person feel it more? I'll tell you, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Those prayers and the way they are sang or chanted or whatever, they can really reach a person deep inside. Because there's a lot of things going on. It's the tune. It's what it means. It's about judgment. It's about life and death. That can put you in a certain frame of mind. But on a regular basis, am I in that frame of mind? Unless like a person's in dire straits and they feel like they're on their knees and they have to pray, right? They have to pray much stronger because they're in trouble and there's no one else to rely on except Avinu Shebashamayim, except our Father in heaven. No one else to rely on. But again, does that mean every day I'm whistling Dixie? We say every day in the morning. For all you guys out there, JITs, you're going to say, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Got an obligation to serve God every day with joy. Do it when you're being tossed around like a rag doll. Do it when life is unbearable. Right? So you say, okay, I said the words. Great. Now, when you said the words, even if you're half asleep, right? When you said them in the morning, when you said the words, what'd you mean? Did you have intention that God's the one in charge of everything? And I have nothing to worry about because he's going to give me what I need, whether it's today, tomorrow, the next day, or to be thankful for everything I have. Let's think about that. Serve God with great joy. Look what you have in your life. Food, water, shelter. Even if you don't own your place, doesn't matter. You got a place to live. You're not starving. Many things to serve God with great joy. Yeah, but what about this is hard? And that's hard. You're right. But when I think and I say the words of serving God with great joy, you're thinking of all the good things he does. And all the miracles that he does. And why we should kiss the ground every second. I can actually pray to him. And I can actually do what I need to do. Does that mean he's answering all my prayers? He could say no. He could say maybe. He could say, maybe in a month. Maybe, in 2 months. But then you're thinking, I got to do this, I do that, I got to get out, this, that. Your mind wanders. Isn't that normal? It's normal. Right? But I'll tell you a scarier thought. Not a Kabbalistic thought. Says Rabbi Gloria, blessed memory, the Arizal. The Arizal says, why does the person, when they say the Shemona Esrei, silent meditation, the Amidah, whatever you want to call it, the 19 blessings, we ask for our spiritual needs, our physical needs. We ask for all kinds of things, right? Why is it that he says he explains why does a person get distracted? Why does a person get distracted? Why should you get distracted? 19 blessings. You can't keep your mind straight for 19 blessings. What's the matter with you? Why is your mind wandering? Why is it thinking about others? Say, oh, beat down in life. We have difficulty, this, that. Okay, but you're in front of the King of Kings. If you're in front of a mortal king today, are you thinking about mundane things at the moment? No, certainly not. You're focusing on your connection to the king. If you're standing in front of God as the King of Kings, how in the world can your mind wander? Oh, I had a senior moment. I'm only 25. I had a senior moment. Was thinking about all kinds of other things. How? How is that possible? Says the Arizal, you know how it's possible? Because you already open up yourself to sin. Once a person sins and they continue to sin more, a person gets distracted. Otherwise, if you're standing in front of the King of Kings, how's that possible? That's what he asks. How's it possible? Right? Shouldn't be possible. So when we're holding by these things, and we're holding by having intention, proper intention, when I do mitzvahs, when I make blessings, when I pray, when I do all these things with proper intention, call me. Prayer is something that needs to be strengthened. Even if I know Hebrew and I understand the words, you got to understand more what's behind it, not just saying the words. There are different levels. First level is understanding what you're saying at a basic level. And then understanding a little bit more what's behind it. Why am I doing it? Why am I saying this? What's the deeper meaning? That's a different level. That's a different level. But it's something, and again, when it comes to learning, when it comes to Torah, when it comes to mitzvahs, these things do not come easy. And a person should never, ever think, because I understand what I'm doing, that means I'm actually doing it. Right? I'll give another example. Right? Come Sukkot, I always use this example. Person shaking his lulav, right? Shaking it like this, you're shaking it like this, you're shaking it backwards. So a person has a basic understanding of what they're doing. Right? What's one basic understanding? You start with the lulav like this, you shake it up this way, you shake it to the right, you shake it behind you, you shake it to the left, you shake it up, you shake it down. Why? First of all, you're shaking it out. You're shaking it in 4 directions, right? This way, behind you, and this way. What does that mean? What does it represent? This world, right? It represents this world, that God has dominion in this world. God runs this world. Now, why at the end do I shake it up and I shake it down? To show me God has dominion of this world and in the spiritual. Right? That's simple explanation. Kabbalistically, all kinds of things going on. How many people are shaking their lulav Kabbalistically? I don't know. I think a survey, not so many. But you'll see people in synagogue, when you're shaking the lulav, what's the expression on their face? Some of them will, maybe will be half asleep, will sort of be shaking it like this, whatever. But you see on their face nothing. Other people, you see their minds, can't say their mind, their head is contorting. They have, you can see they're doing something, or at least they think they're doing something. Other people, though, okay, I'm doing the mitzvah, I'm shaking the lulav. Very good. Where are they holding? Again, I can't say for sure, but if you can see on someone's expression on their face, where are they holding? Blank stares. They're doing what they need to do. But they really grasp what they're doing? I would say no. And, there are a lot of mitzvahs like that. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying there's a reality. For someone to think that, well, if I understand this, I understand that, should be, why don't I feel it? First of all, we're living in a world of tremendous Hester Panim. Hester b'toch Hester Panim. God's hiddenness. Hiddenness within hiddenness. So even if a person says the words, if you're not living it, if you don't understand, Idu es Hashem b'simcha, I'm going to serve God with great joy. So you said, where's the joy? People think Judaism's only about a bunch of rules. What I can do, what I can't do, right? And I got to learn, I got to do this, and it seems very dry and meaningless. God forbid. So a person's going to say, it's so hard to serve God with great joy. Okay. But think about what he's given you. Think about 10 things, 20 things. As I always say, you make a list of what you're thankful for. Not about what's difficult, what you're thankful for. When a person realizes what they have and what they're thankful for, doesn't that give them a little bit more oomph in their step? Doesn't that give them a little more closeness to doing what they need to do? Sure. Problem is, it doesn't last because we get thrown around like no tomorrow. That's something today, something stupid, right? Whatever, something stupid and extremely annoying. Extremely annoying. Okay, I had to deal with it, dealt with it. I said, okay, let me try this. No, let me try something else. Okay, let's get there. Let me finish. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Okay, got to the place I need to get to. I had to sit there and wait a little bit. Fine. You know what? It worked out. Worked out. I wasn't sure it was going to work out. It worked out. Right? So it was annoying having to go through this. But as I was getting there, I said, God, I prayed earlier, and I said, you're the one in charge. Whatever you say. You want to make it work, it'll work. You don't want to make it work, it won't work. Okay? You're the one in charge. Totally annoying thing. But you're the one in charge. So I did what I needed to do. It worked. Right? I got what I needed done. Wasn't happy about it, but I got what I needed done. Right? So in that sense, after that, I walked out. I nodded. I looked up to heaven. I nodded. Said, thank you very much. Was it annoying to go through? Yeah, it was. Was it embarrassing? Yeah, it was. I'm not going to say what it was, but it was, in different ways. Okay. He got me through it and he got me out of it. Very thankful. And if not, what would happen? Okay. So the consequences would have been whatever they would have been. But I was very thankful. Now, does that mean going through it was easy? No. Does that mean it wasn't embarrassing? No. Well, that's what life is. Right? So if you live the way God wants you to, then you can see things in a totally different light. Totally different light. And even if life is hard, you can still serve God with great joy. Because you realize everything's from him. And if everything's from him, what am I complaining about? Because we complain. That's what we do. We complain. I want this, I want that. Back to my point. I want everything instantaneously. Well, I'm going to tell you something. When it comes to prayer, it's not instantaneous. Prayer needs a heck of a lot of work, right? So don't think, oh, well, I'm trying this and that's going to, I don't feel it. It could take a long time. A long time. But you have to do the research. You have to learn. You have to understand what they mean at a basic level, right? But a person, that's the problem of living in an instantaneous generation. Well, I tried this. I'm working at it. I don't feel it. Well, that's like someone, I've heard many people say, I'm going through a certain thing. I want to understand the measure for measure, right? Like you're greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. God says, Moshe Rabbeinu asked God, I want to understand your character traits, your attributes. What does God answer? No one can see my face and live. But God says, I'll show you from the back. What does it mean, the back? God doesn't have a back. What does it mean? What does God show him? Sorry, what does it mean over here? It means a person will only understand things after the fact. Maybe. While you're going through it, you're not going to understand. Right? Because we're living in this world of hiddenness. So you're not going to understand. But God says you can't see my face and live. You can't understand what you're going through and live. But what do people say? I want to know. And I want to understand what the measure of a measure is. No offense to anybody out there. Who are you? God, if God doesn't answer Moshe Rabbeinu, he's going to answer you. Now, some things might be more obvious, some things less obvious. At the end of the day, we may understand and we may not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right? We have to get the point. We have to, we have to try and understand things to the best of our ability and what we have to work on and different things. Okay. But to understand the nitty gritty of why I'm going through certain things, who says? Who says that even if you figured it out, that's the reason? It could be something that happened, 10 years ago. It could be something that happened 6 weeks ago, right? You had to go through this, that, and the other thing because of who knows what. We don't know. We have no idea. Sometimes maybe we understand a little bit better, maybe, right? But, in a certain way, I think it's the ultimate in chutzpah because people want something that Moshe Rabbeinu got answered no. And they think I should be answered. Why should you be answered? We live in this cream puff generation. Why should anyone be answered? Measure for measure. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't answered. I get it. People want to understand. This goes back to the same point. The exact same point. I want it now. I want to know why now. Well, too bad. That's not what life is. And you may never figure it out in 10 lifetimes. So get over it. Move on. That's what a person has to do. No, but I want to know. Forget the instantaneous generation trick. Get over it. Move on. Because it doesn't fly. You got to give it time. A lot of time. To think we understand God, we're going to get in God's head. Is there anything being more conceited than that? You got to say, come on, you're being a little bit harsh. It's not being conceited. They want to know what they're going through. What are they saying? What's behind what they're saying? What's behind what they're saying is, I am God. That's what they're saying. I want to know what God does. I want to get inside God's brain. Can you get inside God's brain? You understand the Holocaust? You got a good reason for the Holocaust? All these terror attacks going on, kids being killed, massacred, killed at point blank range, God forbid. You want to get in God's head? You want to try and figure out what's going on? There'll be people who put their spin on it. Right? At the end of the day, it's a decree. We don't understand. Children cut down prime of their lives. Kids. Young adults killed at point blank range. Horrific. So if God is all good, why Why is this happening? Could be any number of reasons. This is what's supposed to happen before the Messiah comes. Okay, but it doesn't give a reason. We don't know. We just got to keep going. We just have to keep on trucking. We have to keep keeping Torah mitzvahs. That's what we have to do. Why? We're not God. We're not playing God. We're not interested in playing God. Let God do what he needs to do. We have to, at the end of the day, we still have to pick up the pieces. True. Who's to say we're supposed to understand? With our puny brains, right? I'll give everybody homework. Go and read the end of the book of Job. Last 2-3 chapters. God chastises him, right? For a number of different reasons. And basically he says, I'll cut to the chase. Basically he says, like, were you there when I created the world? No. Can you create, can you have fun with the Leviathan like I can? No, you die by his breath, by his fangs. You're in control of nothing. And you're questioning me? Think what I would do. Who are you? Who are you? The puny human. What do you know? What do you control? Nothing. Zero. So who are you to say anything about me? God talking. You know what I do? You understand how it works? Did I ever open up your eyes and show you? No. Right? So what does God say? He says, shut your big mouth. That's what he says. You have no idea. God, I want to understand. Show me your face. God says, my trusted servant will be greater than you in 50 billion lifetimes. I didn't show my face, so I'm going to show my face to you. You deserve me to show you your face? Never happened, God says. Never. Doesn't mean we don't go through difficulty. Doesn't mean we don't have hardships. But to think in our puny minds we deserve an answer? We deserve to know what's going on in God's mind? Who are we to say such a thing? We're nothing. Zero. We are dust. That's what we are, going back to the dust. Nothing more. Just a bunch of cells put together in a body. That's all we are. And when a person thinks they're God's gift to the world and they're conceited, to high heaven, right? I'll remind them of one very simple thing. Think how great you are. We won't get gross here. Think how great and mighty you are, when you're in the bathroom, doing whatever you need to do. Think about how great you are. You're nothing. You're flesh and blood. That's what you are. You got things coming out of you, going into you, this, that. We are nothing. So now we think. I want to reach this high level. I want to draw clothes. I want all these things. You think it's going to come overnight without work? Without heavy work? Think again. Think again. Yeah. Questions here. Question, can singing prayers help to be focused? Yes. They can. Person singing them in a tune can do that. Put certain person in a certain frame of mind. Certainly can do that. But again, understanding what they mean to a certain extent, putting yourself in a certain frame of mind takes effort. Just because you're singing it, doesn't mean you have the right frame of mind either. It can put you in the right frame of mind. But it's going to take effort. It's not something overnight. That's what it is. Someone has a struggle with concentration during prayers. Is that normal? Why? Unfortunately, it is. Why is it? First of all, we say the same prayers over and over again. That's the first thing. And second of all, as the Arizal says, it's because we sin. If we sin, we wouldn't be distracted. But again, prayer is something that always you need to be focused. You always need to be working on it all the time. So you're going to say, is it common to be distracted? 100% it's common. But the more you work at it, the less distracted you become. Because hey, but I fall in the same traps, and they're okay. The Gemara mentions prayer as being one of the most difficult things. So if the Talmud is telling you that, think, if it's that difficult, doesn't mean you can't overcome it, doesn't mean you can't work hard, but guess what? The rabbis know what they're talking about. They absolutely know what they're talking about. So if they're saying it's one of the most difficult things, that means it's going to take a lot of effort. A lot of effort to overcome and to work at. So that's normal. But you have to put in the time, and you have to put in the effort, and you have to remember it doesn't happen overnight. Even if you slip up day in and day out, you got to work. It's something that you need to work at on a regular basis. Someone interrupts you during prayer. Depends where. You have to go back and start again. Depends where. Right? Most things, no. Most things, as long as you remember where you were, you could continue. If not, then you might have to start at the beginning. Someone asks you, praying at home, can we do it at our own pace? Yeah. 100%. If you're praying in the synagogue, you got to keep a certain pace. But you tell me no one can say those prayers that fast and have that intention. Could be. It could very well be. Right? I mean, you can't say it at too slow a pace. Shouldn't say it at too fast a pace, but you got to keep pace. Right? So if you're praying on your own, you got as much time as you need. Right? That's for sure. It's better, if you have limited time, to say fewer prayers with more intention than more prayers with no intention. Right? Let's repeat that. If you have less time, you say less prayers, more intention. If you have more time, you can say more prayers. But you don't want to take on too much and just say them and just have no intention at all. So, again, why is a person thinking different things? Yeah, you tell me it's an evil inclination, true. The Rizal says it's because a person sins. That's why they get distracted. But Yitzhahara can help you also, right? Not just, you don't have to just bring in the reason of Rabbi Zakuri over here, right? We can, you can say that a person gets distracted because evil inclination helps out. That's true. That's true. That's, at the end of the day, we got to cut ourselves a little bit of slack, right? I just went on a whole tirade, right? But, we want to work on it. We want to work hard. It's, we are, sometimes we are lax. Sometimes, we're lazy, right? We're lazy. But at the end of the day, that's the case over here. Someone says, person's lax, they commit some sin or other sins or whatever. Then they feel guilty. Then they want to, obviously you want to do tshuva. You want to work that much, that much harder, right? In that case, it's a sin causing a sin in order to get us to do tshuva. Why? Again, it's God causing us to sin. Who's causing us to sin? We're causing ourselves to sin. The inclination helps. What we do certainly helps. What we see, what we think, right, so to speak. So it's not just, God's going to make you sin, and therefore he's going to test you, and therefore if you sin, it's a greater level of repentance. Why? Again, why are we putting this on God over here? There's nothing to do with God over here. Person has an evil inclination. The evil inclination can destroy us. So the evil inclination, can make us slip up in all kinds of things. And I would say just the opposite. The more it makes us slip up, the less we want to work hard and try and change. Because then a person's miyayish, person gives up. They say they have no hope. I did this, I did that, I did the other thing, 10 things. I keep doing it over and over again, people tell me. Many people have said, so what's the point? Get up again. Similar thing, a person playing baseball, they get hit by the pitch. What's the first thing you have to do? Get back in the batter's box. Because if you don't get back in the batter's box, they hit the ball, you're going to be terrified. You're going to get hit. The ball's going to come 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, more. The person's going to, doesn't want the impact. You got to get back in the batter's box. so to speak. But it's not God's doing it so he can work harder, to repent. He's not doing anything. It's what the evil inclination does. Evil inclination putting us in situations, right? We're not putting that on God. So, the evil inclination wants us to slip up and not repent. So that would knock that out, right? He doesn't want us to repent, not at all. He wants us to be miyaish. He wants us to give up hope. That's what he wants. You think the evil inclination is going to cause you to slip up and say, oh, he slipped up, now he's going to really want to repent? Why would the evil inclination want that? The evil inclination doesn't want that. Evil inclination wants us to beat you down and down and down so you won't pray at all. Forget repentance. You're not even going to get the repentance. You're going to feel like such a piece of dirt you never do anything. That's what the evil inclination will do. So God does not cause us to sin. Let's wipe that out of your vocabulary. God is not causing anyone to sin. Unless, God forbid, he takes away your free will. Right? And Rabbi would say we should worry about that maybe our free will has been taken away. But in general, God is not causing us to sin. Who's causing us to sin? The evil inclination. The evil inclination is not God. He's got a job to make us slip up. Right? And he has no intention whatsoever when we slip up that we should work harder. The evil inclination wants to take you and beat you down until you're down for the count. And you just say, I give up. And it's just too hard. And that's it. That's what the evil inclination wants. It's not coming from God himself. God's not causing anyone to sin over here. Right? We're not going to put that on him. Right? There's I think a Ramban in the book of Job that the Ramban says that when his three friends, Job's three friends, critique him, about why he's going through what he's going through, the Ramban brings down, there's an idea that a person can say, hey, God, you caused me to do this. It's your fault, so why am I getting punished? Right? The Ramban says, what are you talking about? God didn't cause you to do it. Person wants to go in the direction, God will help you. Gemara says. Person wants to go in the wrong direction, God will not stop you. So if God will not stop you, he's not causing it. You did it. So the person's going to get upstairs and say, God, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do the other thing? And the person says, sorry, God says, I didn't do that. This is what you did. These are repercussions. Don't blame that on me. Do not blame that on me. I gave you free choice. You made the wrong choice. These are the repercussions. I caused you to do it? No, not at all. God, so again, wipe this out of your vocabulary. God does not cause people to sin. We have an evil inclination. It's not God doing it. Not at all. Right. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, prayer is definitely a test also. I don't think there's any question. To pray 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, right? It's certainly a test because the person gets easily distracted, no question. Right? But again, my point was if a person's thinking about what they're doing, what the importance of what they're doing is, how in the world can they get distracted? They're standing in front of the King of Kings. If you were standing in front of a head of state, you're going to get distracted? I mean, depends who it is, right? But in general, you're going to get distracted? You're not going to get distracted. You're going to be prepared. You're going to be ready. You're going to be, you're going to have a lot of adrenaline going, meeting this important person, blah, blah, blah. Okay? That you're not going to get distracted by. Right? You might in certain ways, but again, it's a different mentality, right? So it's hard, right? It's definitely hard. There's no question. If someone has, ADHD or ADD, yeah, it's going to be hard for them to concentrate doing anything. Okay, that's a different issue. That's a different issue. Now, if medication can help that, so that'll relieve some of it. No, I wouldn't say all of it, right? But that's a different issue. That they're already at a bigger disadvantage. I'm not even talking about that. Someone at a bigger disadvantage, yeah, it's much harder, for sure. But I'm saying most people that are not ADD or ADHD, or whatever you want to call it, then, what's going to be their excuse? Their excuse is it's hard. It's hard to stay focused for so long because you're not in tune. That's the point. You're totally not in tune. And you need to be better in tune. It doesn't take time. Oh, yeah. It takes a lot of time. You got to give yourself a lot of time. And you have to work at it constantly. Because if you don't, then you just slip up and, you just say the words, but it doesn't have any meaning. Somebody, a lot of questions here. 1 second. Missed a bunch of these. Is a sin for no eyes to be sad about being single? Being sad about being single. Yeah, they can be sad. Person wants to be married in general. I mean, some people don't want to be married, but I'm saying in general, most people. But, the question is, someone, I'll answer that with another question. Someone asks, how do you do tshuva with joy? How do you repent? How do you repent with joy? Right? So I would say, okay, how do you live with joy? How do you serve God with joy when you're getting tossed around? Right? You have to see the bigger picture. You have to see the bigger picture. Repentance is a huge thing. God gives a person, a tremendous opportunity to repent. And God looks at it as if you never did anything wrong and uproots the sin altogether, like you never did it. So that's a huge thing, right? But at the same time, the person has to realize, it's a gift. It's a total gift over here. Total gift. So a person, how's the person get over the sadness? Okay, they're created B'Tselem Elokim, they're created in God's image. They should pray that God should send them, someone to marry, right? Someone to be with, and they should be compatible. It can be depressing. They can be sad, right? It can be depressing. There are some people that get very depressed by it. There are other people say, okay, I work on this, I work on that, I work on the other thing. They became greater people because of it. Now, it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy. Or you take a woman, who can't have children, or it's very hard for them to have children, or they never had children. It's also very hard, extremely hard, right? But again, everyone has their own trials that they go through. I'm not saying someone's going to, be whistling Dixie and all that and saying, oh, I'm so glad, I'm not married. I don't have my soulmate. I'm so glad. No, I mean, people look at that person kind of strange, right? A person, everything comes at the right time, whenever that's supposed to be. Some people could take longer, some people could take shorter, right? But it's hard. A person should never be sad, but guess what? We're sad. There are things that make us sad. What people do to us, what people say to us, all kinds of things, we hear in the world. A person can't always be happy, but a person has to know what they're living for. A person has to know the bigger picture. Once you know the bigger picture, okay, this is a trial. I have to work on it. A person should say every day, okay, I'm not married. You're the one in charge. You're the one in charge. You have to help me. etc. It doesn't mean it's going to happen today, tomorrow, the next day. You never give up hope. You never give up hope. You got to, try and focus on other things also, that are good, that, that make you happy. But it's hard, right? That's what I can say. Someone asks, we don't understand them in the most sense. We just need to obey them. You're right. We need to obey the commandments. We have to try and understand them to the best of our ability, right? And, I don't think it's a good idea. People say, well, I prayed, I did what I had to do. We don't understand what we're doing anyway. So, but, certain things, you can't say that. You have to get a little bit deeper what's going on, if possible. If possible. It's not just, well, I'm just doing it and that's it. Well, that doesn't sound so good. It's like I'm just doing it to fill my obligation. No, you got to fulfill your obligation, to the best of your ability. You have to understand to the best of our ability what we're doing. Might take research, might take a long time to really understand, to a certain extent. Okay. But who says I'm happy with, minimal level? I don't want to be minimal level happy over here. No question. Right. But you're right. There are many things we don't understand. We don't fathom. True. It's very true. But if it comes to something you do twice a day, 3 times a day, and you're speaking to the King of Kings, I would think it's better to try and understand the best of your ability, not just say, well, we're not going to say anyway. Say the prayers, I fulfill my obligation. Prayers have the ability to change the world. Change the world. Save, stop catastrophes from coming. Give salvation to people that need it. Protect people that need it. It's not just to say, well, whatever happens, I'm going to pray anyway, but, I'm just doing it for the mitzvah. You get a C- doing such a thing. You get credit. I'm not saying not, right? But, that's not the way to do things. I don't think. The children of female mamzer and male convert mamzer. No. No, I think 1 second. A male convert can marry mamzer. Right? So 1 second. 1 second. Children of a female mamzer. Okay, you got a female mamzer and a male convert. 1 second. I don't think so. Don't think so. That's what I would say. But if a mamzer, is with, let's say, a non-Jew, right? Or let's say or with a maidservant, right? A maidservant that's a slave, the offspring, is a slave, not a mamzer. Now the question is if they marry a Jew, they're a mamzer, right? That child is definitely a mamzer. If they marry a convert, what happens if they marry a convert? Marrying a convert does not take them out of the status. They're allowed to marry a convert, right? The only way it takes them out of the status of being a mamzer is they marry a slave. If they marry a slave, then that child becomes a slave. But it takes them out of the status. Takes them out of the status of being a mamzer. Someone asked, passing gas, keep this clean, when praying or reading. So yeah, if you're wearing tefillin, that's a problem. Passing gas wearing tefillin, not allowed to. So you have to take off tefillin first. If it's, and obviously if it smells, it's not going to get gross. You can't pray, right? You can't learn, right? You're not allowed to learn until the smell goes away, right? So that you got to be careful. That for sure you got to be careful. Someone asked, the hardening Pharaoh's heart considered taking away his free will? Sure. That's the whole question. If God took away his free will, why is he punished? Why is Pharaoh punished? So the Rambam speaks about it. Others speak about it. Right, his free will totally taken away, but God did it for a reason. Took away his free will, right? So if he took away his free will, 100%. 100%. The question is, why is he punished? Right? If God takes away anyone's free will, why should they be punished? So there's a reason. It's the reason why, why it's done, but just because God did it doesn't mean the free will is around, right? God could take away a person's free will, right? That is true. The only question is, if a person's free will is taken away, like Pharaoh, why did he get punished? Right? That's the question. Right? Someone here points out it's better to stay single if you're planning to convert. Yes, because you never know. If a person's dating, you don't know what the other person's going to do. And then your intent on converting could totally mess you up. You say, well, maybe I wasn't meant to convert. Maybe. Right? But if a person's already married or they're already dating, it's one thing. But if a person would be, let's say, dating a Jew, that looks pretty bad. That's for sure. The rabbinical court's going to make a big deal about it because they want to make sure a person's not doing it for marriage. But even if a person, wants to date, the problem is you don't know where the other person's going to go, and you're intent on converting. So how do you know what it's going to be? And I'll say stronger. The Gemara says if a person had the ability to convert and they didn't, then they're going to pay the price severely, right? The question is, what does that mean? They were able to convert, right? But here, maybe we'll say, okay, person ended up dating, they met someone, and that person didn't want to convert. So it's okay. So, I won't convert. Does that mean they should have converted? They could have converted? Or not? Right? That's why if a person's really intent on converting, unless they're married or they've already been dating, right? Then, you don't know what the other person's going to do. And you're playing Russian roulette because you have no idea. It's certainly better not to. Person does, okay, they do. But person's definitely 100% playing Russian roulette, no question. Right? And I'm not the only one to say that. Vast majority of rabbinic authorities say the same thing. Say the exact same thing. Because you don't know. You don't know. Right? Here some point out, Judaism, you're taught to check 10 times a day, right? Whether you need to relieve yourself, pee or poop, whatever, true. Right? But before you pray, or really, even before you learn, you got to check yourself, make sure you don't have to go to the bathroom. That's the first thing you have to do. Even if you're in the middle of learning, you got to stop. You have to stop and go to the bathroom. But yeah, many times the person has to check themselves, especially for prayer. Right? That's no question. You got to be very careful. Very careful of that. Let me see other questions here. Someone says, I heard that Jewish literature says in history, Hashem caused one certain group of Jewish people to sin for a certain important purpose. Could be. Right? Could be, certain things get caused. But again, in general, it's going to be based on a person's evil inclination. God's not just going to orchestrate it. God, again, let's make clear, Leib Malachim B'Yad Hashem. The hearts of kings are in the hands of God. So yeah, God can convince heads of state and different people that do different things, can influence that for sure. Right? That 100% for sure. Right? But again, for most people, unless God's coming to us in dreams and different things, right? We're acting based on hopefully going in the right path, but we're opposed by the evil inclination. It's possible to command to your heart what you feel like David HaMelech. Hard to say. I mean, it takes a lot to try and control your heart. Are we on the level what King David did? I don't think anybody's on that level. You take all the great rabbis of the generation. Are they on that level? Never. Previous generations, are they on that level? Never. Right? We have to work on controlling our heart. Controlling our minds. We're going to be at that level? No, I don't think even close. But doesn't mean we don't have to work at it. Doesn't mean we don't have to strive. It's hard. Extremely hard. The heart can make people do crazy things. The mind may know the right thing to do, the heart can take a person astray. As we always say, there's a difference between love and infatuation. Infatuation is not love. It can be based on desire, it can be based on other things. Love is something that takes time to develop. Can a person be love at first sight? I don't know. Love does not come till after marriage, usually. Right? It's something that has to be nurtured. Infatuation is something else. Right? Totally something else. So our heart can take us in different directions, even in the wrong way. And our heart can destroy us. Person can think, yeah, this is the right thing, and then something happens, you say, wow, I'm glad I didn't go in this path. Now I see what this person was or whatever. For many people say this, broken engagements, different things, and thank God it happened that way, because then it would have been compatible in other ways, either religiously or not or whatever. Right? But we sometimes may convince ourselves, yeah, this is the right thing, and this and that may not be. It may not be. It just That's what our heart tells us. Our minds, it's going to take time for that to develop. Doesn't happen overnight. I'm not saying a person can't meet someone and go through a lot of dates and, get engaged in 2.5 weeks. I did that, right? That's common. Definitely not so common. People date 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is, at least in the Orthodox world, right? But love comes later. Definitely comes later. But again, basic values, going in the right direction, see if you're compatible, you can talk to each other, etc. But, the heart can convince a person that, this is right, and it's really the wrong thing, totally the wrong thing, because that's what the heart wants the mind to believe. Now, sometimes the heart will be right, or maybe many times the heart will be right. Depends. It depends on the situation. But remember, the eyes see, the heart desires. The mind and the heart have to be in sync. And sometimes the person's torn because the heart is torn. Doesn't mean they should be going in that right direction. Right? Sorry, in that direction. Right? And it doesn't mean that's the right thing to do. If it's over time and it develops and it's this and it's that, okay? Right? It still could be the wrong thing. But a person could be convinced. They could be totally convinced. They know 100% this is right and whatever. And it could be disaster. Could be an absolute disaster. Depends what it is. Depends who it is, what it is, what the circumstances are. Someone asked the third paragraph of the Shema. Protocol, what's the protocol of kissing the tzitzis? One of the Siddurim says kiss before the word tzitzis. I don't know why before. When you say the word tzitzis, you kiss the tzitzis. Tzitzis should be in your right hand. Right? You should kiss when you say the word tzitzis 3 times, you kiss it each time. One says after. Right. That's when it should be, not before. I don't understand what that means before. When you say the word tzitzis, that's what it means. When you say the word tzitzis, you kiss them. Right? And then we let them go and is different. And when we pass in front of our eyes, right? A person wearing tefillin, yeah. So some people put it in front of their eyes and touch their tefillin, touch the top of their tefillin. Are there different customs? Could be. Could be. But kissing them, I think it's pretty clear. I don't understand why someone would write that you kiss them at the, before. Should be, right after. When it said you put in, in front of your eyes, yeah. So you put it in front of your eyes and they touch the tefillin and you kiss them then, right? You kiss them then as well. Someone asks, if only the righteous, high level of purity could have prophetic dreams. Why did Pharaoh dream about the fat and thin cows? Because God gave it to him. There was God can allow people to see certain things. When it comes to dreams of kings, those are significant. Right? The dreams of most people are insignificant, totally insignificant. Most dreams mean absolutely zero. Right? I get questions a lot. What does this mean? What does that mean? Most times it's nothing. I mean, there are dreams that could be significant. I'm not saying not. Most dreams, 99%, pretty much worthless. Totally worthless. When it comes to kings, that's a different thing. Pharaoh was a king. Right? So we had a dream for a specific, God showing something. Got bothered by the dream. That's what brought Pharaoh. That's what brought Joseph to power. That's what brought the children of Israel, to the land of Egypt and all, then they got enslaved and all that. Joseph saved his family and then they end up getting enslaved. So that's significant. But by most people's dreams, totally insignificant. Were these 2 pharaohs reached the level of purity? They weren't pure by any stretch. Pharaoh himself thought he was God. So at the beginning of the first plague, or before the first plague, God tells Moses, go see Pharaoh by the river. Go see Pharaoh by the river. Go tell him, you want the Jewish people to go. Why does he go by the river? Pharaoh's the God, right? Gods don't go to the bathroom. What do you think he was doing? So Moses caught him with his pants down, no pun intended. Moses caught him. God says, go to the river. That's where Pharaoh's going to be. And go tell him, let the Jewish people go. Pharaoh thought he was God. You think he's pure? Not pure. Not one pure bone in his body. God punished him, demolished him, totally demolished him. Someone says, Siddur that says to kiss them before also doesn't have the akid in Otherwise, if you stick to an Art Scroll prayer book, you're safe. That's there are a lot of good prayer books out there, but I'm saying that you're pretty safe. Question: non-Jewish woman becomes a Noahide. Okay. Not because she believes in Hashem. Can you be together with her? Yeah. Remember one thing. What's the highest level? I shouldn't say the highest level. The Rambam holds the laws of kings. For a Noahide to be a Noahide, you have to believe 100% God gave the Torah to Moses and passed it down to us. So, so if a non-Jew says, I'll be a Noahide because you're a Noahide, but they don't believe that, they're not a Noahide. According to the Rambam, that's part of the criteria. That is absolutely crucial. You have to believe God gave the Torah to Jewish people. If that person doesn't believe God gave the Torah to Jewish people, are they really keeping the Noahide laws? According to the Rambam, no. How do I know a non-Jewish woman is truly a Noahide? You got to see what she does, what she keeps. How can you know 100%? I don't know. You can't know 100% about everything, right? But, you try the best of your ability, see. Noahide laws are complex. We think all 7 laws. Yeah. So I've been giving a class for Noahide nations the last, 6 months, 8 months. We're in class number 58. We're going to start 59 on Sunday. I don't think about 62, 63 classes. I mean, some of them are multiple classes on the same topic, right? People think, it's only the 7 laws, right? Anyone who wants to know the in-depth of the laws, go over there. Go to noahidenations.com, right? Sign up. Classes are all there. They're all, they're all taped. They're all available. They're complex. There are a lot of people who think, I'm keeping the Noahide laws. I don't think most people know what the Noahide laws are. There could be 65 to 70 Noahide laws. And they're in depth. It's not just like, just don't kill. There are a lot of details. A lot of details about going through now Dini, about the laws of law courts, right? Laws of monetary laws. Complex. Right? How do you know you're keeping Noahide laws right? Let me ask that. Well, I think I am. Don't assume anything. Right? Something like this you have to learn. These classes are free. Go look them up. Go learn them properly. Too many people talk. I hear it all the time. Yeah, I keep the Noahide laws. Do you have any clue what they are besides the 7 and what the 7 represent? All the details. I'm not here to make fun of anyone. I want, people need to learn them in depth and what they are. There's a lot of detail. Person may think what they're doing. Okay, think whatever they want. Doesn't mean anything. Remember what happens when you make assumptions. I'm not even going to answer what that is. If you know, you know. Don't make assumptions. Go learn. How can one be a Noahide? Right? Again, you got to know what the laws are. You got to know how to keep them. And you're going to say, well, it's so easy. There are a lot of different opinions. Like anything else. You have to learn. You have to be immersed in what they mean. Right? It's not enough to say, I keep the Noahide laws. I don't think most people know the depth. That's why I agreed to give these classes. They need to know the depth. And it's a lot of depth to what they need to do. And certain things are, unclear. Exactly to what level and different things. They're complex. So people, people have to know. They have to learn. That's what they have to do. Can the daughter of 2 converts marry Cohen? A daughter, if they're born a Jew, then they could marry Cohen. Right? A convert cannot, but a daughter of a convert could. Somebody points out, right? These 7 work as categories. Right, they're categories. I'm telling you, they're complex. Much more complex than people think. Much more. Yeah. Any other questions here? Let me see. There's a negative assumption about a person similar to Lashon Hara. Negative assumption is bad. Not necessarily Lashon Hara, but let's say like this. Someone who's not a rasha, someone who's not considered evil, right? There's a mitzvah to judge them properly. Judge them, to give them benefit of the doubt. Mitzvah. If they're evil, I have no mitzvah whatsoever to judge them, judge them positively. I can 100% judge them negatively. But if I think negative things about someone, they may not be true. Right? Could I have thought Lashon Hara in my mind? Sure. Doesn't necessarily mean it's Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara normally has to be said. Not necessarily in your mind. Is it a good thing, though, it's in your mind? No. Right? It's like any bad thing in your mind. The question is it really Lashon Hara or not? That's the question. Right? But it's not. Right? But, if you assume something and you believe something about someone that's not true, yeah, that's really Lashon Hara. Right? The question is it Lashon Hara even though you didn't say it? Right? That's the question. Yeah, any other... another question. Someone asks, Divine Code. Yeah, it's a very good book. Path of the Righteous Gentile. I think it's also a good book. Divine Code, I think, is pretty thorough. It's 2 volumes. It's pretty thorough. Right? You don't go wrong by going through that for sure. I would definitely recommend it. All right, I'm going to stop here. I just every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, you can find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, you can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimKoffman@gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, or end of the day, depending where you are.